Welcome to the first episode of CommanderCarr64. With this series, I hope to show my love and affection for one of gaming's most forgotten genres, the 3D platformer. A genre that challenges its players to master their characters' movesets, to jump to all the platforms, stomp on all the bad guys, and to collect all the things. Having its heyday in the late 90s and sort of dying out during the mid-2000s, the genre is at the moment having a bit of a resurgence in the industry. So now is a good time as any to look back on the history of the genre and shed some light on the problems of the past to hopefully fix in the future, and for a much-needed hit of nostalgia for myself. Oh, yep, there it is. And the first game on that list stars a little-known tiger from the harsh outbacks of Australia. A game that uses very colorful vocabulary that I still have a hard time making sense of to this day. I'm talking about Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Developed by Krome Studios back in 2002, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is a jolly old romp through the Australian outback. It was released for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube, with a Steam port being published in 2016, which is what I played the game on this time around. You play as the titular Ty, a boomerang-wielding Tasmanian tiger, who's tasked with finding all 5 mystic talismans and saving his long-lost family from the evil boss Cass, who is in Emu? I'm honestly not sure. Do emus have gizzards? Upon further research, I have found that he is a cassowary, which is this thing. I now see the resemblance. Anyway, a long time ago, Boss Cass tried to take the talismans for, generic bad guy purposes, but Ty's family managed to stop him and scatter the talismans all across Australia. But not before they all got
trapped in the dreaming.
Mom? Dad?
The dreaming? Which is some interdimensional limbo, I guess. So Ty's gotta save the day, save his family, yada yada yada. Something worth noting is that the game got a lot of flack upon release for supposedly ripping on Australian stereotypes. The game's characters use a lot of different Australian slang like
Strut
and
Ripper
and
Beauty Butler Bonza.
Not only do I think that these give the game a lot of charm and character, but Krome Studios was a studio based out of Australia, so I think they know how to handle stereotypes of their own country. Speaking of charm and character, the cast of characters you'll meet along your journey are just a joy to me. From Shazza the Dingo, Ranger Ken, Rex the Platypus, all the character designs are very charming and really flesh out the world of Ty. My favorite character is by far our bird friend Maury, as he guides the player throughout the game with tutorials and subtle guidance, and he has some of the best dialogue in the game. So much so that he can't even stick to the script.
You've got a fair set of choppers on you. I reckon you could put them to good use by pressing the bite button. Get it? Choppers, bite button.
So we got a pretty simple story and charming characters, so that's a good start. How does it play though? First we start with controls. You gotta jump to do platformy things. You got your trusty rangs to whack baddies where the sun don't shine. You got a bite to bite baddies where the sun don't shine. Wait, I said that already. You got a glide to fall with style, and that's it. Right? Oh, and you can use your rings in first person to hit switches to solve puzzles. And there's some of these spy cameras around that you can use your bite to sonic homing attack your way to out of reach areas. Overall, Ty's controls feel really solid. They feel tight and responsive, and I had no problem tackling some of the game's more difficult platforming sections. As for general progression, Ty takes a lot of cues from one of my favorite games in the genre, Banjo-Kazooie. As you need more jiggies to progress in each level in Banjo, you'll need Thunder Eggs to progress in Ty, and they come in 3 delicious flavors: fire, ice, and electric, depending on which hub you obtain them in. You'll need them to power up Julius the Koala's teleportation machines to receive the talismans. Rainbow Cliffs is your main hub where you'll find portals, presumably made by the same koala, which are broken into 3 level hubs containing 3 levels that can be completed in any order you desire, and contain 8 Thunder Eggs each, which you'll receive from performing various challenges around the level, or just looking around hard enough. You need 15 Thunder Eggs to progress to each subsequent hub, but not before beating each hub's boss, which I'll get back to later. Each world has its own theme related to the different biomes located across Australia. Some are reused for later levels, but each level is distinct enough to tell apart. Each level is structured with a set path in mind, but you are encouraged and rewarded for getting off the beaten path to search for collectibles. The first level in the game, 2 Up, is structured in a much more linear fashion than later levels, but it serves as a great tutorial and still has some well-hidden secrets in it. There are some annoying levels, like say the first water level, Shipwrecks, to where you'll gain the ability to swim underwater, and it took quite a bit of backtracking to really find everything. I feel like the level is way bigger than it needed to be, just for the sake of introducing swimming, which is a trait shared amongst both beach levels in the game. My least favorite level, though, is the only level set in the actual Outback, Outback Safari, where the game throws everything you've learned up to this point out the window to ride this big-ass bull around the level and smash a bunch of crates. The controls feel slippery, the mission design is boring as hell, and this is the only instance of this in the game, so it really just has no place here. About halfway through the game, you'll stumble into another Tasmanian Tiger who's working with Boss Cass. With skulls on his belts and boomerangs, you can tell he's one angsty tiger. You'll first run into him during the level Liar Liar Pants on Fire, as Larry the Lyrebird leads you into his trap. And if you didn't see that coming, I don't know what to say to you. He's called a Lyrebird. Anyway, it's a pretty easy mini boss fight, and you'll take down Sly pretty easily. Oh, did I not mention his name until right now? Yeah, it's Sly. Like Sly Cooper. I only mention it now because that's exactly what the game did to me. I just knew him as Angsty Tiger Man before the final boss fight, where they then decide to drop his name, but I'll get there soon enough. Even aside from the 72 Thunder Eggs in the game, there are even more goodies to snatch up when and wherever you can. You can gain 1 Thunder Egg in each level from collecting all 300 of each world's opals, which also come in 3 flavors. Real talk though, if I put these 2 images next to each other, which would you guess would be called a Thunder Egg? Oh, you thought it was the egg-shaped object with lightning shooting out of it? That would make sense, and we can't have that here, no. While in some levels, particularly the more linear fashioned ones, finding all 300 opals is pretty easy, but when you get to some of the more open-ended levels, I had several instances throughout my playthrough when I was missing a single opal and had to scour the entire level looking for it.
It is not. I'm missing 1. God.
You can gain another Thunder Egg by finding all 5 bilbies trapped throughout the levels, another cue from Banjo-Kazooie. The opals and bilbies are what I'd like to call sub-collectibles, as their only purpose is to unlock more of the Thunder Eggs. Each of them are a permanent challenge for each level, not unlike the aforementioned Jinjos or Mario 64's 100 coin stars. They're definitely important, but don't serve any other purpose other than gaining Thunder Eggs. Unlike these sub-collectibles, there's 10 of these golden cogs hidden in each world, which are by far the most useful collectible to find, as you can bring them to Julius and Rainbow Cliffs to unlock new boomerangs! This was honestly my favorite aspect of this game growing up. Each new rang has its own distinct properties, and all of them are actually useful. From the Zoomerang that helps you hit far-off enemies or switches, the Multi-Rang that sacrifices range for a barrage of rangs to hit enemies where the sun don't, or the Kaboomerang, which is by far the best offensive option you have. You'll also unlock 3 elemental rangs from beating each of the world's level hubs. Can you guess what 3 flavors they come in? I bet you can! The Flamerang helps you melt icy things and deal more damage to enemies. The Frosty Rang can freeze enemies, put out fires, and make ice platforms on bodies of water. And the Zappy Rang can power up electrical objects. One electrical object, as you unlock it right before the final boss and is basically useless afterwards. The cogs are some of the most interesting collectibles to find, as they can provide for some mini platforming challenges in order to reach them. Other than this one particular cog in Bridge on the River Tie, which is straight up broken. The game requires some pixel-perfect measurements in order to actually land on this platform. I can only guess this is not how this is supposed to go, and I had to come back later with the Frosty Rang to actually get it. There's also this weird green power-up you can find that I debated even mentioning because it just feels tacked on. Like, it's barely used at all, and it just unlocks Ty's persona to use in battle, and all he does is punch. There's also a bunch of these picnic baskets scattered throughout each level that you can break open for some health, an extra life, or this somewhat useful magnet power-up that sucks in nearby opals. Other than that, you have paintings hidden in secret boxes in each level that unlock images in the art gallery, yawn, and the aforementioned rainbow scales hidden in rainbow cliffs. While not doing anything right away, once you've obtained all 25 of them, you'll gain an extra paw of life, equivalent to 4 more hits of damage before death. Which sounds nice, yeah, until you realize there's no discernible punishment for dying. You'll find these outhouses along each level that serves as checkpoints. You die, you lose a life, and you teleport back to the one you last activated. However, none of the enemies respawn and you lose no progress in terms of collectibles or mission completion. It's definitely nice not to have to recollect a bunch of things, sure, but when it comes to boss fights, it just makes things way too easy, as the bosses just keep the same amount of damage you've done to them already, relieving any kind of tension that the boss fight had. Not to say that any of these fights had any tension to begin with. There are 4 main boss fights in the game. One at the end of each hub and one final battle with boss Cass, and they're all incredibly easy and incredibly forgettable. First you fight this big bull. All you have to do is make him run into a bunch of rocks. Yippee. Then you fight this mechanical shark, which does have some interesting mechanics in that you have to unlodge these air tanks for him to gnaw on and then blow him up using the flamerang. But 1, 2, 3 of those and it's over. Then you fight this giant robot yeti, and the game tells you to use the flamerang and then follow up with the frosty rang, but you don't even use the frosty rang at all to damage him. So the game just straight up lies to you on how to beat him, so that's cool. And the final battle isn't even a traditional boss fight. To start, you have to go through one last level, but with no collectibles, so it's basically just an enemy gauntlet ending with a mini boss fight against this bat lady. But before you take on the final boss, you'll have another showdown with Sly, and by showdown, I mean cutscene, where Ty bests Sly in a Matrix parody. Ty saves him, and then he runs off. And when you actually get to the final fight, first you take out a bunch of turrets, then you blow up some electrical circuits by using the zappy ring. Oh my god, it's not useless after all. Just kidding, it is. And lastly, you'll pilot a new boomerang given to you by Sly. Oh my god, he's a good guy now. Wow, I never saw that coming. Into the robot's core to destroy it, and boom, game over. Roll credits. Not only does this final blow introduce an entirely new mechanic, but the path you take to the core is incredibly confusing, and it took me way longer than it should have to figure out where to go. And with the most anticlimactic ending in history, Ty reclaims all the talismans and saves his family from interdimensional limbo. Wait, where are my brothers? They were clearly in the opening cutscene, but now it's just Ma and Pa. What? Are they dead? Overall, I thought Ty was a pretty solid 3D platformer. Some of its levels are less than stellar, but for the most part, I had a blast jumping, gliding, and ranging my way through each one to 100% completion. Finding all of the art boxes is a bit of a pain, but the infrarang makes tracking them down a bit easier, so if you're up for true 100% completion, it really shouldn't be too hard. Just know that you're going to get real familiar with this sound. For tracking down all the Thunder Eggs, Opals, Bilbies, Golden Cogs, and Rainbow Scales, you are treated to 2 bonus worlds, which are really just 1 bonus world. Same level layout for both, but one's during the day and one's at night. You'll find a bunch of paintings lying around that you can add to your art gallery, but that's about it. They're nice little puzzle boxes to end the game on, but if you're not up for 100% completion, you're really not missing anything. Despite scoffing at the art gallery earlier, it's actually pretty interesting. There's a bunch of pre-production art assets, including characters, level designs, mock-ups, etc. You can find a couple of unused characters and items in it as well, which makes me think that Chrome wanted to make this game longer than it is, especially this unused opal type, which suggests a whole nother level hub was planned at some point. But my child self can finally rest easy. I've finally completed another 3D platformer that eluded me in my youth, and unlike DK64, which I came to despise after replaying, video link on screen, I still really like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. The controls feel solid, the game has charm oozing out of its teeth, and it's a relatively easy adventure, but an enjoyable one. It's a fad dinkum good time! I'm not sure if I used that correctly, but that's the outro I wrote, so I'm sticking with it.